Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've had a long night and a lot of speakers.
Yes.
And I'm just going to weigh in for a few minutes with regard to some things that are on my mind. And as I listen to the opposition, the only characterization that I can come out with regard to what I'm hearing tonight is the politics of desperation. Because, Mr. Speaker, you cannot sit in this House year over year, month over month, and pretend that the government has done nothing. You cannot sit here and pretend and advance a mistruth that we are capable of governing this country. The Progressive Labour Party ranks include accountants, lawyers, educators, health professionals, business people, former trade unionists, IT specialists. In other words, Mr. Speaker, we are a cross-section of Bermuda, the people who we represent. And the one characteristic that will always be the PLPs is that of resilience. So the events of the recent week that seem to have people in this contrived tailspin, they're not resonating with me. I appreciate my former colleague. I wish him well. But guess what? When you sit around this table on a Tuesday, the rule that we all signed on for is that if we don't support the policies of the government, and I'm not talking about former Minister Dickinson, I'm speaking generally, you take a hike to the back bench. And collective responsibility demands that we all stand together behind the policies of the government. So what I'm hearing tonight is a mass of rhetoric coming from all quarters, quite frankly, in some instances, about what the government has not done and what the government needs to do. So let me be clear. We're not the money party. Okay? We are a party that focuses on the people. Financial stability, accountability, and all of those wonderful buzzwords, and that's not my domain, are crucial. But guess what? We have always put the people first. And there's no one, and I'll be frank, Mr. Speaker, I'm looking around and wondering who on earth are these people talking about? Because in the ministry where I sit, we work, and we work for the people. During my tenure, Mr. Speaker, I've made sure that we have pupillage. I've made sure that we fund the advancement of our young people. We've had 7 pupils leave my chambers who are all employed in the private sector, the public sector, and one who even is a successful entrepreneur of Dove and Butterfly. Success, Mr. Speaker. During my tenure, we enacted the first child safeguarding legislation to establish our first child safeguarding committee, committed to protecting the rights of child victims of sexual exploitation and sexual abuse in this country. We amended the law to ensure that there's enhanced monitoring of sex offenders. And as the Attorney General, at my own risk, I have given the first public notifications in this country with regard to the release of sex offenders in order to protect our community. We have not been sleeping. To those who say we haven't heard, when our young black man complained about bias in the jury selection process, we fixed it in this very House. How soon we forget, so that there was no bias in jury trials. We made sure that we had the right mechanism to keep our laws under constant review and established our Law Reform Commission with 3 attorneys general at the helm. We have not been sleeping. Under my tenure, Mr. Speaker, I established the first panel of litigation guardians so that our children have representation in court and that their voices are heard and their interests are protected during court proceedings. And that was against a backdrop of huge opposition and criticism with regard to the Director of Child and Family Services, who is still there working on behalf of our communities and our families and our children. Resilience, Mr. Speaker. That's what we represent. Revenge porn legislation. We listen, we hear, we have our feelers on the ground, and we respond in this very house. And you all support it, but yet you sit here and pretend that we've done nothing. How soon we forget. How soon we forget. You've seen our premier sponsoring countless grants to our community clubs and our sports clubs and organizations to ensure that they can enjoy some prosperity and our young people can remain engaged. And the list goes on, Mr. Speaker. And in the upcoming months, we will bring mortgage legislation. We will deal with the living wage. And this is not aspiration. The work has already been undertaken. But make no mistake about it, the very same people who you criticize in this House and in the public domain, aided by your partners who was at opposition, are civil servants. When we're all gone, they are the engine on the ground that keeps this country going. The Minister of Finance did not work alone. He has a whole team of civil servants who are excellent and capable. He has consultants who have been brought in to specialize and to assist with the more complex matters. We have a government that works for the people. And so I ask myself, what is all this about? And the one face that keeps pinging in my mind is that of the Honorable Premier. So is that our game? To get rid of the Premier? Why? So in the recesses of my mind, I have it figured out somewhat. Is it that we win elections? We have landslide victories? But guess what, Mr. Speaker? Even if the Honorable Premier is somehow removed, even if the Honorable Premier decides that it's time to go home, we have in our midst leaders. Because the one thing about our people is we are resilient. And to the opposition, sort out your communication. Because some of you didn't get the same memo. I must confess, I got kind of confused. And as my colleague said earlier, in one breath, you're extolling the virtues of the Minister of Finance. The other breath, you're tearing them down. But guess what? This ship continues to sail and will always sail and will always work for our people. We have withstood criticism, the hatred from all quarters, attempts to bring us down by any number of mechanisms, and we're still here. I don't embrace the rhetoric that we're not working. I don't embrace the rhetoric that we're not capable, because that's absolutely not true. So let's stop having that conversation. And I will be honest, as the minister responsible for constitutional reform, I had a moment a few minutes ago where I decided that, you know what? The Westminster system needs to go. Because, Mr. Speaker, it brings out the worst. You who did weigh in a small way to get busy with doing the people's work. Because guess what? Your efforts to destroy and to maim will be in vain. Because I don't need to remind persons of our history. I don't need to remind persons that notwithstanding that we come from single parent families, notwithstanding I feel that it all needs to end. What picks me up is the mental image that I carry with me of my female ancestors in a field picking cotton with a baby strapped to their backs. And guess what? I stand up straighter. I continue on because we're all here for a purpose. And so to all our naysayers and to all our enemies, you knock down one, there are 5 behind them. You knock down 5, there are 20 behind that 5. The PRP is not going anywhere. We are resilient, we are strong, we are committed to our people. And we will continue the journey of our service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.